part of it, for those of you who are out there, a book is the ticket to a successful business. Because I published a couple of books before I hooked up with you guys, and that was.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It is Wednesday, your favorite time of the week, my favorite time of the week. It's time for Leaders Talk. As always, I am Andrew Dupy, Chief Publishing Officer now here at Leaders Press. Got to get used to that name change, title change. Chief Publishing Officer here at Leaders Press, and I am joined today by Kae Wagner. So Kae Wagner is a best-selling author, she's a speaker, and she's the founder of the North Star Marketing Group. She's the author of Leadership Glue, a guide to how to become the glue in your business. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Hello, Kae, and welcome.
Hey, how are you doing? It's so good to be with you. Thanks for having me on, Andrew. I love your show.
Thank you. I love hearing that. So, Kae, tell us a little bit about yourself kind of before we roll into the book.
Okay, great. So I have been a writer ever since I was a kid, literally. You will find this hilarious, as will your audience, but I won an award when I was 12 or 13 years old, a writing award for writing a radio script for 4-H for the state of Maryland.
Man, it's been a while since I thought of 4-H. That's amazing.
I know, me too. I know, but every time I tell that story, I'm like, maybe people know what 4-H is, maybe they don't. I don't know. For those who don't know, it's like a program it's an agricultural program for farmers' kids, right? So while my brothers and sisters were showing cattle and doing other kinds of agricultural stuff, I was writing, but I wrote a radio show about a state fair.
Okay.
It had all these characters in it. And it was fun. And I won this award. It was a trophy like this big. So I was hooked. Anyway, so that goes back to the beginning. And I've been a writer ever since. I was published early on in a magazine and have written fiction, nonfiction, poetry, pretty much the whole gamut. Love to write.
Is writing kind of what got you interested in marketing? I mean, they don't necessarily seem connected, but I can see ways in which they can actually be integrated and work together.
Yes, certainly. They're very integrated because, marketing is really about how you put together the message, right? And that's all based on imagery and words. And so for me, writing in poetry or fiction or whatever I wrote before I went to quote unquote work, right? My first jobs were really copywriting jobs, marketing jobs, because that's how you get paid in writing when you first start. You
Right.
become a copywriter. And it's actually a great way to get started because it really sharpens your skills and you can see the results of your work. If you're doing copywriting, you can tell almost immediately once it goes out if it's going to work or not. It's almost like direct response marketing or copywriting. And so it really hones your skills because what you're really doing is you're looking at psychology. And I find the study of human nature, how people buy, why people buy, when they buy, what triggers a buy, endlessly fascinating. And I've actually studied infomercials, which you can track infomercials, the writing, which of course then is spoken by an actor, right? But the exact time when the persuasiveness of the writing will kick in. And in the old days, the phone started dialing, right?
Yeah.
And they get all the dials and the prices, would show up and it would be like big time. And then it would come back down and something else would trigger it. So there's so much power in the written word and the spoken word. And I love seeing how that impacts human behavior.
Is that what inspired you to start North Star Marketing?
It is. I graduated with a degree in communication, but I was always interested in business as well. So I always had this entrepreneurial kind of itch, if you will. And I started North Star Marketing as a marketing agency, not just as an advertising agency, because I was also very interested in strategy.
Gotcha.
And, in agencies, so much of the time, at that time anyway, we're just supposed to focused on tactical execution. And to me, it was much more important to get the strategy right and then move into the tactics. And so that's what we did. We had a wonderfully successful marketing firm, and still do marketing, but my real heart is with the writing. So, but I have to tell you, I have to tell you the success part of it, for those of you who are out there, a book is the ticket to a successful business. Because I published a couple of books before I hooked up with you guys, and that was back before you could, that was back that when you self-published, you literally printed it yourself, right?
Right.
You didn't have a publisher to handle all of the printing and the publishing and all of those details and stuff. And so I did 2 books that got me on the speaking circuit. One was The Power Principles of Marketing, and the second was the CEO's Little Black Book on Branding. And those 2 books got me on the speaking circuit, and being an author on the speaking circuit to groups of CEOs, that was like the golden ticket for success. And I would go speak to a group of CEOs, and inevitably about 2 weeks later, I'd get a call from a VP of sales and marketing, and he'd say, "My CEO heard you speak to us about branding, marketing, and he said that we should hire you." And I'd be like, okay. So books, books have so many purposes. I mean, they're just, it's not just, words on paper, obviously, but there's so much that can happen around the excitement of a book, around the content of a book, that can be so helpful, not only for the reader, but for people who are influenced by the reader as well. And so leaders are readers. You guys know that. That's why you have Leaders Press. So leaders are readers, and what they read influences them and influences their people. And that's really an important aspect of a good book.
Yeah, I mean, that's just it. It's that idea that you can either go into a boardroom and leave a business card, or you can go into a boardroom and leave a book.
Right.
And which one would you really rather do? And that's not my words. That's Chris Katranis's words. So we'll talk about our other authors. Give a shout out to Chris on that with disruptive leadership in his book. But that resonated with us so much that we've continually stolen that soundbite from him and used that, because it really works. It works so much better.
It does. It works today. It worked 20 years ago. It worked as soon as Gutenberg was finished tinkering with his press, it started working.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. You make a really good point there, because there's something evergreen about writing, and truly evergreen. People nowadays, they think about, well, media is constantly in a flux. Certain things come and go. Movies, people aren't going to movies anymore. People are consuming it in different ways, and it makes people worried about, what if the media that I am going to try and put out, is that going to be obsolete in 6 months? Is that going to be obsolete in 12 months?
Right.
When they think about a book, though, books have been around for, at this point, around 10,000 years. And exactly. I don't see them going anywhere.
Right. That's exactly right.
So what was when you were actually beginning to think about Leadership Glue, what was the starting point of putting that together? And tell us a little bit about kind of how you developed it personally and what it's about.
Right. So Leadership Glue, the full title is How to Be the Glue in Your Business Without Getting Stuck in the Daily Grind. Yeah. Is about teaching your people what their real responsibilities are. And as you know, Andrew, a lot of companies, new employees, new managers, they just get thrown in the deep end. And they don't get the training and onboarding, and they don't get the information and roles and responsibilities that they should have, or information about it. And so it's about taking this formula of really spending time at the beginning to train people to kind of marinate them in their role and responsibility.
Right.
And then moving into the next, so that's the hands-on part of it, right? And then the next part is hands-free, where you're kind of in a managerial role where you're letting the person go through some of the rudimentary mistakes, getting the job handled, understanding the nuances of the responsibilities. And then the next phase is hands-free. And that's when I'm like, you are good to go. You've got this job. So it's like running a race, a relay race, where you are handing off the baton to someone who is as equally good at that job as you are,
Right.
or as the manager who's doing it. And so what that does for the leader, and this is where the leadership glue comes in, the leader is that intangible that holds the business together. It is that connectedness that makes people really loyal. And if the leader is stuck in the daily grind, he or she is going to be mired down, and the visionary, innovative part of a leader's job is going to be negated because he's stuck in the business. He or she is stuck in the daily grind. And so we want that leader to be the glue, to be the connected tissue that holds everything together in good times or bad, but also is able to elevate and delegate, right? So raising people up, delegating effectively, and then being able to have the vision. In addition to that, we want to make sure that leaders have time to reflect, that they have time for R&R, that they are not caught in the busyness of business, that they have time to clear space to do nothing but visioning, innovation, looking into the future, creating the strategies that are, is going to continue to drive the growth of the company. It's hard to do that if you're stuck in the daily grind.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really like the approach you're taking as well, because one of the things that I learned when getting into my first managerial positions was that when you're in that position, you really become a teacher, you become an educator.
Yes.
And if you're not educated before you get into that position, you can't educate in the other direction. Yeah. And so often, I think in American business, we are in this mindset that if you hire someone for a managerial position from outside, or even sometimes when you promote from inside, the upper management at that point considers that, well, you're ready, just go ahead and do it. You wouldn't have gotten the job if you weren't prepared. But there's always going to be a learning curve, isn't there?
Right, right. Well, the thing is whenever you go to the next level, you're learning, right?
Right.
So you never want to stop expanding the box set. There are 5 levels, right? You look at the first 4. The first 4, let's just call them boxes. The first 4, those needs, you can satisfy those needs. Hunger, food, shelter, all the needs. When you get to the top of the hierarchy, that is the area where you will never satisfy that need. And that is because it is the continual evolution of the spirit, the soul, the mind, the body, right? Yeah. So that just continues on. And that is the realm that most leaders operate in. And most leaders in today's world, because we've broken through that stigma of leaders having a coach or a teacher or a mentor, at one time that meant that you were weak. Doesn't mean that anymore. It means that you're smart, because we all need each other. And we all need to be able to learn and expand. And leaders are readers. And we know that what you read impacts how effectively you operate as a leader.
Yeah, I love that. That is absolutely true.
Yeah.
What do you hope to leave with people when they read Leadership Glue, when they look at their own business? What's your hope that they get out of it, that they're going to be able to implement or do, whether it be personally or in their business or however?
Right. So there are a couple of things. One is for a leader personally, we find that leaders are getting burned out.
Yeah.
to a very high degree in today's world. And I think part of that is because they are so busy just, spinning in the hamster wheel. And leaders have to consciously get off the hamster wheel, and they can do that through this hands-on, hands-off, hands-free formula. It's a very specific way that you rise above the daily grind. And as long as you're in the daily grind, you are going to get ground down, i.e., you're going to get burned out. And I went through that myself, and then got to the point where I could, begin to delegate, understand how to delegate more effectively, and actually use the formula to do that. Being burned out is not healthy in any way, not for yourself, your business, your employees, your family. It's a bad place to be. And so understanding that if you continue to get caught in the daily hustle and grind of work, that's where you're going to end up. So personally, I would want people to look at this and say, here's the formula that I can use to protect myself as a leader for the healthy benefit of my company, my personal life, for, the healthy benefit of all of it. And then on the leadership and business side, there are tactics in here that I help people understand how to go through the process and how to begin to delegate. I spend some time on building roadmaps to success, giving people the guardrails. And I teach people in the book how to develop guardrails so that your people understand where let's just call it the highway to success is for your business. And they might bump up against the guardrails, but if you don't have the guardrails, you're going to veer off to the right or the left. And the guardrails have to do with, how do we do business here? How do we make money here? How do we operate here? What is our culture, right? Because that, culture eats strategy for breakfast. It's just it's just so pervasive, and it's the DNA of your company. And so if you don't design your culture, you will have a culture by default. And you want to have a culture that you've designed. So you design those, those guardrails for your people. And that's what I would hope for leaders to understand, and then to, execute on that concept.
And you just talking about it like that, it makes it sound so logical. I mean, of course you should design your culture and build your business around that, but we really don't do that that much, especially in American business. You're right. Cultures tend to happen by default because we get so overtaxed in the idea of building strategy, of trying to come up with a hack that's going to make everything work. And I think we have at this point 3 different books that we've released on burnout, because it's become such a pervasive thing in American business. And you're coming at it from the approach that I like. That's, let's stop that burnout before the burnout ever even happens.
Yes. Prevention is the key.
Exactly. And we see that in medicine, we see that in a lot of things. We don't see that as much in business, that we should come from that. So I really feel that meets a need. Do you have any kind of personal stories, anything that connects with the book so far that just kind of touched you or inspired you?
Well, I really wrote it because my favorite people to work with are executives, CEOs, the C-suite guys. I love those guys. And I mean that, male and female, right?
Right.
Yeah. So the people in the C-suite have a unique responsibility for a company, whether it's a small business or a large organization. They walk in the door and sneeze and everybody else gets a cold. That's the impact that person has on so many other lives. And I really would love for people to understand how they, as a leader, have such a responsibility for that impact on people's lives. At the same time that they have this huge responsibility, they have a huge opportunity. And right now I'm working with legacy leaders who want to share their legacy, to package it up and actually share it with people, because that wisdom and knowledge that they have is so important. And we were talking about books, you know, from centuries ago. And that once captured, that information is, you know, we can still read it today, right? It's the same thing for leaders. If they don't preserve their wisdom and knowledge, it'll be frittered away. It'll be gone. And so leaders, small business owners, people of wealth spend millions of dollars trying to preserve their wealth. They don't preserve their knowledge and wisdom. And so when a leader has glue, he needs to capture that. He needs to bottle it. You know, he needs to preserve it in the same way that people spend so much money preserving wealth. We need to preserve this knowledge and wisdom. And I'll tell you this, the Vanderbilt family, over 100 years ago, maybe 120 years ago, 4 generations, massive wealth in the first generation. Second generation doubled, tripled it. Third generation frittered it away. Fourth generation in the Vanderbilt family is Anderson Cooper. And his mother was a third generation. When she passed, from the millions and millions and millions that the original estate was worth, she passed with an estate of 1.3 million. And Anderson Cooper, we see him on CNN every night, right? He is a working man. And so the saying from shirt sleeve to shirt sleeve, 3 generations. The first leader has glue, and then that glue gets diminished over generations if they are not intentional. And so this is why it's so important to be able to use the formula to delegate to people, to elevate them so that they can be as proficient, if not more proficient in their roles and responsibilities as you are. Because you are the vision, and without a vision, the people will perish.
Okay, I always ask for a golden nugget. That was platinum. That is one of the best. I didn't even have to prompt you for it. That is one of the best. That is one of the best stories and closes that I've heard on this show. And that's not to say anything to our other great guests, but man, thank you so much for that. I think that really resonates with the people that are listening, and it connects with C-suites like me that you know,
yes.
we have a lot of the pressure on us, and sometimes we don't see everything, and it inspires me to do better. Thank you so much for that.
Yes, thank you, Andrew.
How can our audience find out more about you?
So they can go to www.northstar-m.com to see what we've done and see what our legacy is in branding and marketing. Okay. Currently, you can also go to www.leadershipglue.com to see what's happening currently with Leadership Glue and some of the work that we're doing with leaders that will be on the Leadership Glue side, not the marketing branding side.
Wonderful. Well, those links are down below.
You know, stay tuned because there's more coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep an eye on Kae, man, and absolutely, that was again. Thank you so much for the wisdom, and if you need more of that, ladies and gentlemen, you know where to go. So, yes. Kae, we appreciate you being with us, and you have a wonderful rest of your week, and we wish you the best in everything you do.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. You've been a wonderful host. I really appreciate it.